ReconAthlete.com podcast is brought to you by Kreitz Market. ReconAthlete.com podcast, episode number 40. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez. Shout out to Zach Lucero. He's sick once again. I don't know what's going on in his office, Paul, but I mean, somebody needs to start washing their hands.
It's either that or you get some of that Lysol disinfectant out there.
Now, you know, Zach got on the messenger yesterday, and he was talking about like what do I need to do, or what are some remedies, for that. And Snoop and shout out Snupe Daniel. He always tells me this too. Really? He's like, if you're ever starting to feel sick, you get a whole box of zinc lozenges or something like zinc pills.
Never heard of it. And
you eat the whole thing within like 3 hours. And it sounds weird to me, but Snoop swears by it. He says like if you're feeling bad out there, like if somebody's like feeling like they're coming down with something, zinc. I think it's zinc lozenges or zinc pills or something like that. And you just eat them all. The whole box.
Hold on. For everybody out there, if you know what the zinc does to help your body, leave it in the comments because I have no clue.
I don't know either.
I've never heard of that in my life.
But Snoop swears by it because he has done this several times. Yeah. And he's saying like, I mean, every time I feel sick, something coming on, I'll just, within 24 hours, like it's gone. Now he says you feel kind of weird because there's like there's so much metal in your body, I guess. But he got this from Bill Swell, who's a People's Pharmacy. He's a holistic pharmaceutical shop here in Austin, Texas.
Right.
And apparently it works. So I don't know. I don't know if Zach, started to do that or what, but we'll ask him. But you'll get not only sports information here, but some holistic medicine suggestions here on Recon Athlete podcast.
That'd be cool. I'd love to know because the way we grew up, it's vapor rub and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and the egg,
See, I don't mess with no curandera stuff neither, bro. We have your cousin, my best bud, Stefano. He swears by it, and I'm just like, man, I that's cool if you're digging that, but it's just not for me.
No, it's not for you.
It's not for me, bro. But for me, it's vapor rub, chest, put on your feet, put on socks. Big boy style. I know I shouldn't do it, but it's big boy style. Half a bottle of NyQuil for 2 nights in a row, and I'm right as rain after the third day.
You know what helps me?
What's that?
A little bit of Jägermeister.
Yeah. I mean, a little hot toddy in between,
Yeah.
No driving, no work, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, especially if you got a sore throat.
Yeah.
If you have a sore throat, I mean, that Jägermeister, it'll coat your throat and then knock you out from the alcohol in it.
Yeah. Little hot tea, lemon, and honey.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I like that.
All right, so once again, shout out to Zach. Sorry you're sick, bud. Get well soon. All right, we're going to talk, of course, Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett is still the head coach right now. He's out, but he's in, and we're not. Everybody's kind of in limbo right now. We're going to talk about when he does finally leave, who the top head coach candidates are for the Dallas Cowboys. We'll talk a little bit of Texas Longhorns because they decided to show up and play a really good game against the Utah Utes on New Year's Eve. And also Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and then we'll talk a little bit of NFL playoffs. So, Paul, get us started on this Jason Garrett saga and your thoughts so far on this process.
This has been a developing issue for longer than it should have been. We both believe that Jason Garrett should have been out years ago, but coming to a head, Jason Garrett had 2 meetings with Jerry Jones and co. There was supposed to be a third meeting that was supposed to take place after New Year's. The Jones family went to Aspen, enjoyed New Year's there. The word is that they couldn't get out of Aspen, the Jones family. And Jason Garrett showed up to Cowboys headquarters, Jones's family not to be seen. So the third meeting did not take place. A lot of hyperbole out there thinking that if the meeting did occur, Garrett could have finagled and talked his way into possibly renewing his contract. But as of right now, the contract ends on the 14th. Jason and the Cowboys are separating. So we'll see how things are going to move forward. But right now, as of 23 minutes ago, Ian Rappaport is saying that the Cowboys want someone with head coaching experience in the NFL. That's going to rule out a lot of coaches. But that could also be Jerry Jones, what he does best, controlling the narrative, controlling the storylines. I really, we've talked about coaches that you like and that I like. Shout out to Coach Ron Rivera, who got hired by the Redskins. He's out of that running now for the Cowboys.
Yep.
But let's see if maybe some coaches like Mike McCarthy that get a look, since he's a head coach previously with experience, also won a Super Bowl in Green Bay. That's a name that's floating around. But my top pick that I'm enjoying right now is Urban Meyer. And it'd be really cool to know if there's some kind of like betting odds out there to see if maybe, he's a leading candidate. But for me, his body of work from Utah all the way to Ohio State. And I'll be really curious to know, and this is just, fantasy thinking, if Urban Meyer is the coach, do they or would they have beaten Clemson last week? Something interesting to think about. He was on the sidelines.
Yeah.
But right now, my top choice is Urban Meyer, just for what he's done and he's accomplished with his quarterbacks. And I think that would be something that would be a best fit. Urban Meyer, if you just look at him, he looks like a Dallas Cowboy. He's an imposing figure. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy. And he takes a situation that he believes is going to be the best fit. And for him, he sees a talented roster with Dallas. I think that would be the best fit. If Jerry Jones can write the check, which is not a problem, but write a check to stay out of the kitchen, stay out of making decisions as far as who comes and who goes is in the coaching staff.
Well, I mean, according to CBS Sportsline odds makers, they did have some odds for the next head coach. Now, in light of what you just read from Ian Rappaport, I would say like maybe this would change, because now that the reports are saying that the Cowboys would want a head coach with NFL head coaching experience, this might change. But according to Sportsline, CBS Sportsline, Urban Meyer tops the odds at 2-1 plus 200, followed by Oklahoma's Lincoln Riley at plus 300. And then after that, it kind of falls off. Dan Mullen is actually the next most likely candidate at plus 500. Here's a name: Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Greg Roman, plus 700. They have Matt Rule on here, but I think Matt Rule's pretty much ruled out of this. No pun intended, but it kind of. Mike Zimmer, plus 1,200.
Another Dallas guy.
And one of these, this name here, I haven't really heard a lot of, but it's interesting. It's a Washington Huskies coach, Chris Peterson.
No, thank you.
At plus 1,500.
No, thank you.
Kansas City Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, plus 1,800, and Cowboys defensive backs coach and passing game coordinator Chris Richard at 20-1 odds, or plus 2,000. So out of those names, you're saying Urban Meyer. If they are looking for somebody with coaching experience in the NFL, I would have to say Greg Roman, Mike Zimmer. I mean, I think really Chris Richard is really a viable dark horse candidate because, I mean, we've talked about how Jerry Jones loves loyalty.
Right. He
loves people that are in the family already.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't doubt that, Jerry Jones would do something like this. I mean, if he would draft Quincy Carter as his quarterback, then why not, hire Chris Richard as your next Cowboys head coach?
You remember Quincy Carter? Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was like, didn't we start the decade off in 2009 with Quincy Carter as quarterback for the Cowboys? But yeah, I think Richard would be a great candidate. He knows what it takes to win. He won a Super Bowl with Seattle. He's bringing in former people from Seattle with their Legion of Boom squad. It's just, can he bring in the right kind of offensive coordinator that's going to be able to lead that offensive side, since he is a defensive-minded coach? I think it'd be interesting to see, but a dark horse candidate for sure with Chris Richard. That guy's going to be a head coach somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe Dallas, and it could be other places within this next coming year, but I think Mike McCarthy is the big name right now. They're saying right now on Twitter that he's set to meet with the Cowboys today or tomorrow. That'll be interesting to see how that fares, but I think Dallas wants to go with a proven name, and if they can't secure maybe a head coach with previous head coaching experience in the NFL, your next logical candidate is to go with someone who's produced numerous NFL talent with Urban Meyer.
Right. So Mike McCarthy, some other names out there. This is on bloggingtheboys.com. This is they did a cool list here. Josh McDaniels is on here. Mm-hmm. Some of these names you're like, what? Marvin Lewis, yeah. Gary Kubiak. For some reason, Sean Payton.
Well, there's a lot of talk out there that Dallas would be willing to spend $125 million to get Sean Payton out of New Orleans if New Orleans goes in and wins the Super Bowl. Now, the rumor was last year, because of Sean Payton's contract, if he would have won a Super Bowl last year, Jerry Jones would have made a big push to get him out of New Orleans and get him back on the roster with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we all know under Bill Parcells, he was where he made his name as offense coordinator. You know, he moves on to New Orleans, and of course, they win the Super Bowl that next fall, or 2 years after he gets there. That would be a huge move. It'd be a big paycheck. We're talking about in the area of like $11 to $11.5 million per year for that coach, because he definitely had to be paid more than John Gruden and now would be Las Vegas.
And that's the thing, though. I mean, Jerry's not he's not the guy that wants to pay a head coach that much money.
Never has.
And so, I mean, to me, that kind of just, takes Sean Payton out of that. But, I mean, also, it's like, Jerry, dude, like, do something different, bro. Like, like, if you're going to, throw some money at Dak Prescott, throw some money at your head coach, too.
If you want to hear something really, like, out there and something that could be just totally off the wall is Bill Belichick. Now, we are all thinking that Bill Belichick and this dynasty could be coming to an end soon, especially tomorrow. A lot of people are picking against the New England Patriots, and there's a lot of talk out there that if Robert Kraft has to make a decision, he's probably going to lean with Tom Brady and keep him there, which means there would be a separation of separation from Bill Belichick out of New England, and Jerry Jones could come in and he'd have to pay a lot of money. But if you talk about that talented roster with Bill Belichick and Jerry, I think Bill is smart enough to know how to manage Jerry, being an older coach and lots of experience, manage Jerry and get every ounce of talent from that roster, man. Chris, you're talking about 3 to 4 Super Bowls in the next 5 years, if that were to happen. But long shot, really big. That's really big dreaming, but I don't think that would happen. I think the candidates we've listed, I think, are more suited to be Cowboy head coaches rather than these other couple of names we threw out there.
Right. And shout out to Amado Galvez. He's on our watch party here, and he mentions Mike McCarthy as well on here. So I think, if they're bringing in Mike McCarthy, they're just kind of maybe testing the waters with him. I would be comfortable as a Cowboys fan with Mike McCarthy as head coach. I think that was a safe pick.
Safe is right.
I think it's something that the Cowboys probably need right now. Don't go too crazy. But honestly, when I look at it, I think Urban Meyer is a safe pick. I really do. I know in episodes past I've been totally against the college coach coming into the NFL.
Right.
But I think at this point, Urban Meyer has so much experience and just. And then just watching him, on his, on TV, right. His demeanor and, how well he, conducts himself and just he just seems like a good fit for the Dallas Cowboys. So, if they did decide to go Urban Meyer's way, as a Cowboys fan, which, by the way, I'm still a Cowboys fan because Jason Garrett's not going to be the coach next year. I know if you saw episode 39, I threatened Jerry Jones that I wasn't going to not be a Cowboys fan anymore. And I mentioned it to some people and they were like, yeah, right, dude. You're not going to do that. You're going to be a Cowboys. So I was like, no, I will not be a Cowboys fan if Jason Garrett's the coach in 2020. I'm sorry.
Chris sticking to his laurels. All right.
But, thankfully for me and, for my Cowboys gear that I don't have to, donate to Goodwill, I'm still going to be a Cowboys fan because they're going to move on from Jason Garrett. So, we'll see. I think one of the questions that we mentioned, right after the Cowboys lost, or right after they lost their opportunity to go in the playoffs after Week 17, was, do we think that Jerry would let Jason Garrett's contract expire, or would he fire him? I thought he was, and I think it's kind of playing out exactly the way we all thought it would.
Yes.
He didn't want to embarrass Jason Garrett. He wants to give him. It seems like they're trying to find a spot for him for some reason within the organization, and they're just gonna let it play out, and all it is more coverage for the Cowboys, which Jerry Jones loves.
Right, and I think that Stephen Jones is the one who's kind of brought Jerry to the forefront and saying, "Hey, look, if we didn't sign Jason Garrett after winning the division last year, what makes us think we want to sign him after not winning the division, not going to the playoffs with an 8-8 record?" And I think it's hard for Jerry because it's like you would have to be firing your own son, your own adopted son, and you really have to internalize that and really own what that really means, because it's easy for us as fans and people talking on a podcast to say, "Oh, it's just Jason Garrett." Well, to Jerry Jones, it's like one of his sons, one of his family members, and it would be like him trying to have to fire Steven. Yeah. And so for him, it's a very difficult thing to do, and I think what Jerry's going to end up doing is letting the contract expire, because he doesn't want to have to ever say or ever admit with the ego. He doesn't want to admit that he had to fire Jason Garrett. And so it is going to play out like it is. And then he's going to let the contract expire. They're going to part ways. Jason's probably going to get a head coaching job somewhere. Maybe not this year, but possibly in the future. He'll get another shot at being a head coach just based off of probably a huge recommendation from Jerry Jones. Yeah. So they're going to separate. It'll be amicable. Jason's still going to be at some parties. Jason's still going to be around the facility, but he'll probably have no authority or say, because why would you want that? Why would you want that name hovering in the organization when you bring in a new regime to take over? Because it would just create, in my opinion, a little bit of discomfort and distraction for the locker room if Jason Garrett was around in the head office or in some kind of administrative role.
All right. ReconAthlete.com podcast episode number 40. Talk a little bit about Jason Garrett, or a lot of bit about Jason Garrett, Dallas Cowboys head coach. Before we get into this Longhorn talk, we do want to remind everybody about our live broadcast coming up on January 19th at Kreitz Market. Shout out to Kreitz Market, our title sponsor. Shout out to Kalunga. Yeah. We haven't heard from John, a.k.a. King Kalunga, in a while.
I have a feeling he'll be back soon.
Yeah, so we're hoping he comes back and joins us on air. Also, you and him have been working on Recon Knuckle Up.
Recon Athlete Knuckle Up.
Yeah, Recon Athlete Knuckle Up, and that's going to be a different podcast, a video that we got going on, a part of the Recon Podcast Network that we're kind of starting here, and that's going to be, MMA, boxing, all those combat sports, and the one thing love about Kalunga is he's a character.
Most definitely.
He is, I need him to teach me how to become like a wrestling character. That's kind of what he does. He's very entertaining. So keep an eye out. We'll have that Recon Athlete Knuckle Up coming up this year, and then come join us January 19th. Kreitz Market. Jesse Stratton Band is going to be there. We're going to start probably about noon o'clock, I think it is. Yep. We're going to work on getting some trivia going, maybe some gift cards or something to give out. We'll work on that. If they don't give them to us, I'll buy them. Whatever.
Well, we will have gift cards, and we'll have some merch from Kreitz out there. I've already talked to John, and we're working those details out. So that will be there. Show up. I think we're talking about maybe $50 gift card and two $25 gift cards. Okay. We may get some more, so we'll just kind of see how things fare out. But come out and, if you've never been to Kreitz Market, go check it out, because you're going to want to enjoy that, and you'll promise you'll be back and get the brisket, because it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and so we'll do those gift cards via trivia. I was thinking maybe some big game trivia, Super Bowl trivia, because we'll be right in the middle of, right a few weeks away from that. 2 weeks
before it, yep.
Yeah, so we can do some of that, and we'll be giving out those Kreitz Market gift cards. And of course, Jesse Stratton Band's going to be out there. So come out and join us. All right, the Utah Utes versus Texas Longhorns game wasn't much of a game. Dominated by the Longhorns, 38-10 win by Texas. Sam Ehlinger had 200 yards passing, 73 yards rushing, 11 carries for Sam. He went back to running the football. It was reported that Coach Herman was like, "Hey, Sam's he's gonna run this offense. He's probably gonna run the football." And that's been what's been successful for the Texas Longhorns is when Sam does run the football.
Yep.
I mean, unfortunately, it's like, you know, you don't want to put your quarterback out there like that, but it does give that different aspect, you know, that different factor that the defense has to, you know, think about, and the D coordinator has to think about. And it really worked out well. He had a touchdown on the ground. Keontae Ingram added 108 yards on 13 carries and a touchdown himself. Sam did have one interception, but he had 3 touchdowns, and the defense stepped up big time. And this Longhorns offense, I mean, dropping 38 points on this Utah Utes defense that was a top, like, 5 defense in the nation.
Yep.
And to drop 38 on them like that, I mean, was it another hangover situation like Georgia had last year where they were, you know, going to possibly looking into the college football playoff and they lose in the Pac-12 championship, and then they just kind of like, oh, well, we're just going to play in this game. We're gonna walk into the Alamo Dome. We're going to run over Texas because they don't look like they're good. What are your thoughts on that, Paul?
I think that it's easy to kind of use that as an excuse for Utah. I think it's easy for saying they had to fly across the United States. I think it's easy to say Texas played down the street from their home stadium within their home state. I think it's easy to do all these excuses, and I'm saying, okay, fine. You can have that argument, but let's just put what happened on the field. What happened on the field was Texas looked healthy. Texas played with the swagger. Texas played to their strengths, and they controlled the ball on the ground, and they did what we've been talking about the whole year is run the football. And I think when you go run the football well and you can play off of play action and your defense is getting turnovers and playing cohesively, it's easy to win football games. And we know Texas is a talented roster. I just think that the type of games Texas played throughout the whole year had them a little bit more battle ready once they were healed up, and maybe the coaches that they didn't like, the players didn't like, are gone. They probably played for themselves, and that's what it looked like to me. You could see guys having more fun. You could see guys running around and playing with the attitude. You could see defenders getting off the ball a little bit quicker than they would be previously. And Texas came out, and they didn't wait to play. They played from the start. They didn't play from halftime on to the end of the game. Those are the biggest things that stuck out to me. Yeah, Utah had to do those other things to come over here, but hey, you were ranked 11th in the nation. What I thought the keys for Texas was Sam Ehlinger needs to control the ball. Sam Ehlinger needs to run the ball. Sam Ehlinger needs to protect the ball. He did those things. Look at Oregon. They did those things against Utah, and it just got applied in a different stadium and a different team. And that's all that it was to me. It was pretty simple. I thought this was going to be a big game for Texas. I thought they would win by 10 points or more. And I said that on, I think it's episode 33, and this is what we have as the outcome.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that they did not do, the Longhorns, was put this on the arm of Sam Ehlinger. Only 19 pass attempts as opposed to 37 rushing attempps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they ran the ball. You know, they controlled everything. Like you said, they controlled the clock. They controlled the ball. They controlled the pace of the game. So when you're in complete control like that, you get a result like 38-10. Now, the one thing after this game that I kind of noticed, like in the Twitterverse and, you know, just overall, the excitement of this win didn't really quite match what it was last year. Now, you know, against, you know, beating Georgia and beating Utah are two different things.
Yes. That's,
you know, and winning the Sugar Bowl and winning the Alamo Bowl are two different things. But I think, I mean, and as a Longhorn fan, I think Longhorn Nation is a little reserved to get excited about this. You know,
as well they should be.
To get, you know, hyped up about 2020 because of this win, because we've been here before. Yeah. We beat a better team. You know, we in a bigger bowl, and we saw what happened.
And you said you were back.
Yeah, you said you were back.
You weren't.
Right. You know, Texas is back. Texas is back. You know, shout out to my cousin Jeremy De Leon. He was in town yesterday. He's a big, you know, he was in the Corps, you know, Aggie alum.
Oh, yeah, Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy. You know Jeremy. Yeah.
That's my boy, Jeremy. What's up, man?
we met over at Revelry on the Boulevard. Shout out Revelry.
Shout out Uncle Joe.
Yeah, and we talked about of course he's a huge Aggie football fan. I'm the Longhorn football, so we talked about it, and he was like, he goes, yeah, I just remembered. I thought it was funny how Texas was back. He just starts giggling. I was like, come on, man. Why you that wasn't true. The Longhorn fans that like kind of knew what was going on, like were very reserved about that. I personally didn't think they were back. It's like you can't be back until you're at least in the college football playoff. Unless you're at least competing for a national championship,
winning Big 12 titles.
That is when you're back. I mean, that's the only time, and man, I mean, you got OU over here winning 5 Big 12 championships in a row. I mean,
4 consecutive college or football playoff appearances.
I mean, like Texas, where you at? Like you can't talk about we're back, and I don't think we're going to hear any we're back commentary over this offseason for the Texas Longhorns. Now, yes, was this an impressive win? Absolutely. Did Sam go out there and do his job? Yeah. Defense showed up, shut Utah down. It was a great win for the program. Mm-hmm. Great win for recruiting.
Yes.
But not something that is really, getting me hyped up or getting me teed up, as the kids say.
I don't think it should.
About the 2020 season.
Right.
I mean, now, Sam's going to be back. And I think that's exciting for Longhorn fans, because hopefully there's going to be some development for Sam Ehlinger,
some maturation,
over this offseason. He's going to be another year older. He's going to have another 12 games started under his belt, and he's just going to he's already a leader.
Yes, that's not in question.
That's not in question. But I think his leadership skill, is going to go. Bless you. Is going to go up even higher.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be something that the Texas Longhorns are going to benefit from in 2020. Now, it's going 8-5. And really, that's not what Texas fans want. It's not what I want, out of Texas. So
it's not what the donors want either.
No. So I think they need at least double-digit wins. They need a Big 12 title, and really they need to be in the college football playoff next year, or they're not going to be. I would say in the minimum a Big 12 championship, because this is going to be year 4 for Herman.
Yeah, this will be 4.
This will be year 4 for Herman. Mm-hmm. It's like your senior year, Tom. You've been around now,
and he's gonna have all his boys with him. All his boys from Ohio State.
Yeah, all his Ohio State cats.
Ash from Rutgers.
Yeah.
I forgot the OC's name coming from Ohio State.
But yeah, so he's gonna have his homies with him, and year 4, Tom. And I think if he doesn't get it done next year, at least a Big 12 title, we're talking hot seat this time next year. Do you think? Am I off track here? I mean, is it crazy for me to say that?
I think his seat is warm right now.
Okay.
I'm thinking you better make sure, because I'm looking at the schedule for next year, in front of me right now.
Okay.
And they start off with UCF at home, then they go to Baton Rouge for LSU in the rematch. Mm. If you get blown out by LSU, Joe Burrow's going to NFL, so he won't be there. But
right.
if LSU blows Texas out on the road in Death Valley, his seat gets hot really quickly, because I'm looking at that schedule for the second half for when Big 12 play starts at K-State, Red River Shootout or Red River Rivalry, however you want to say it. Mm-hmm. Baylor's going to be tough. Texas Tech's going to be tough. You're going to have to avenge the loss to TCU. The Mad Hatter at Kansas. Mm-hmm. I mean, Oklahoma State to finish out the year. Iowa State's not no slouch.
No.
I mean, it's a rough Big 12.
Yeah.
But if Herman and company go through and they can win out and win a Big 12 title, or lose maybe 1 or 2 of those games, because the quarterback for Oklahoma next year is Spencer Rattler.
Yeah.
And that dude is bad.
Yeah.
He's probably the best that they've had since before Baker.
Mm-hmm.
So get ready, because that game is going to be make it or break it. Because if they lose the blowout LSU loss and they go to Oklahoma or they go to Dallas and get beat out by Oklahoma, people are going to want a job real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's warm now. I think it's warm going into the season. And he's saying, look, let me bring in my guys.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it. And Texas said, fine, do that. You fired your coordinators. Now it's on you.
Yeah.
Now your job is in question, because we can't lose anymore. You can't blame anybody else.
Yeah. You have no more excuses.
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think the one last excuse that he might have is Sam Ehlinger. I think that is because that's not his quarterback. He didn't recruit Sam. Now,
he sure was on those sidelines when
he was
when Sam was in high school.
He was
at Ebby Neptune.
Yes, and I was there on the sidelines with him. But I think at the point of when Herman came into the program, there wasn't really a whole lot of time for him to recruit his own guys. Now, Sam Ehlinger was Charlie Strong's quarterback. I think Tom probably went and scouted him and said, okay, you know what? I like this. I think I can work with this. I'm going to go ahead and honor this scholarship. I think but I think to me, that's his last excuse, quote unquote.
Okay, Chris, fine.
You can
put Hudson Card in. Put Hudson Card in if you don't want any excuses. Then you ride out.
Next year.
Ride out with your boys. Ride out with Card.
He's not gonna do that.
Or put in Jackson from Duncanville. Ride out.
He's not gonna be ready next year though. ACL.
My point. Okay, fine. You got Card. You recruited 2 quarterbacks. Ride out. Take your boys and go win.
But why would you do that when you have a built-in excuse? So Sam's not my guy. I mean, I honored his, and I'm saying this not knowing the situation. Maybe Tom was like, yeah, this is my quarterback. This is my dude. I got in late into the whole recruiting cycle when I was getting pulled into the Texas Longhorn program.
You telling me he couldn't pull one top flight recruit quarterback in the past 3 years? Come on, Chris.
I mean, he did with Hudson and Jackson, Jaquinta Jackson, but I think with Sam, you have your quarterback. He had his quarterback.
Y'all need to quit playing this politics in Texas and start winning.
But
that's what y'all are doing.
But that's how Texas works.
But
that's how the Longhorns work.
It's like Jerry Jones in Dallas.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm making the excuse.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a built-in excuse.
Listen, the last time Texas was back is in 2009, and Texas played for national championships against Alabama. And look, I'll argue this with anybody. If Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt, I think that changes the whole landscape for Texas, because Mac Brown doesn't leave. Texas wins the second national title. Colt McCoy goes to the NFL, and who knows what recruits come in. But right now, we're not even talking about Big 12 championships.
Yeah.
We're talking about maybe not getting fired.
Yeah.
That's what needs to change. The culture needs to go back. So you need to bring in a coach like that, or Tom Herman needs to call Mac Brown and say, look, what do I need to do?
Mm-hmm. Maybe. I mean, or we can just bring Mac Brown back.
No. He likes it. He likes it in North Carolina, because you see him jiving in the locker room, just dancing again. Yeah. Shout out Mac Brown.
Yeah. All right. ReconAthlete.com. Podcast episode number 40. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez here. Zach Lucero, hopefully recovering from his flu-like symptoms. Shout out Snupe Daniel as well. All right, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Clemson, LSU. That is the national championship game, and this narrative of this game is going to come down to, and I like the way when you put on a messenger, Paul, about the topics we were going to talk about for episode 40. You didn't put LSU versus Clemson. You put Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence, and why is that?
Well, I think this is good. This game is going to come down to how evenly matched these teams are, and the deciding factor is going to be on a resurgent career for Joe Burrow and a living legacy that Trevor Lawrence is creating. I mean, we talked about early with Recon Athlete. Is it too soon to crown Trevor Lawrence, the next big quarterback? Mm-hmm. And because of their schedule, they flew under the radar. And now LSU's been battle tested, and that Clemson answered all its questions against Ohio State. Everything else is even. It just comes down to who's going to make the mistake with the quarterbacks. And I think that's what we really have to analyze and look at. And the biggest thing I was looking at is interceptions. Right now, Trevor Lawrence has thrown 8 and Burrow's thrown 6. But I got to think about this. Trevor Lawrence, and I talked about this episode, I think a couple of weeks ago, when I was saying, look, Trevor Lawrence is maturated from his mistakes. He was throwing passes that were wide open last year because nobody knew how to defend him. Well, this year, DBs are sitting on routes a little bit longer, picking off passes, and Trevor Lawrence has learned from those mistakes. He's starting to read things a little bit differently. Joe Burrow's had a huge amount of growth, and coming from a long line of really good quarterbacks from Ohio State to LSU and learning from those mistakes over time. Joe Burrow, I think, is right now, dude's an assassin at the quarterback. He just throw whatever. But I think the secondary for Clemson and really the linebacker position for Clemson is going to be, how do we confuse Joe Burrow post-snap? Not pre-snap, but post-snap. Because he's going to get a read. He's going to get a feel. But how do we confuse him late? And I think it just comes down to who makes the mistakes for the quarterbacks. And I think that's where we really need to answer a lot of questions. And for me, the biggest mistakes are going to be made by Joe Burrow, because I don't think he's seen a secondary, or let me say, he hasn't seen a back seven like Clemson has all year long, because everybody tries to pressure Joe Burrow, or people try to confuse him pre-snap. You can't confuse this dude. He's just too good.
Yeah.
You have to confuse him post-snap. You're going to have to make adjustments. You're going to have Ed Reed type DBs who can flip the field and make you look at something pre-snap. And after you snap that ball, you're going to flip the script and cover what you think you're telling that quarterback's going to be open. Clemson has the athletes to do that. We'll just see. Also, I want to see who's going to control the ball. Trevor Lawrence is going to be running down the field. Does he get hit big? Does he fumble? Who's going to give up field position? Those are the kind of questions that we need to answer. I'm still looking at a whole bunch of tape I can find on YouTube. I picked Clemson. I'm still leaning with Clemson, but I may have a different pick when we get close to game time next week.
Yeah, and these two quarterbacks, they've combined for more than 8,000 yards passing and 80 passing touchdowns this season.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of yards.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of touchdowns. That's a lot of just offensive production in general. Now, I think one of the things that we saw, and I mean, maybe I haven't watched Trevor Lawrence enough. Maybe
it's hard to. He's never on TV.
Right. Maybe I didn't know this about him. But what surprised me is the 67-yard touchdown run that he had.
The speed, right?
Yeah.
Slow. It looks slow.
He looks slow.
Fast.
I mean, he looks slow.
He's like a horse.
Yeah, and I was like, why can't they catch him?
6'6", bro.
Yeah, and I was like, man, that 67-yard touchdown run he had against Ohio State. I mean, that turned the game around.
Yeah,
that was a game changer.
Yeah, and
I don't think LSU is going to allow him to do that. I think they're going to that's going to be something that they're going to focus on stopping.
Go ahead and spy that man. Go ahead and play zone or play man and spy him. You play man, they're gonna run slants and crossing routes and kill you. You play spy, you play zone, they're gonna throw everything underneath. And then when they get in the red zone, they're gonna hand it off to ETN and run behind that offensive line. That's where I'm like why I'm leaning towards Clemson. Mm-hmm. But listen, Clemson's receivers have not faced DBs the NFL quality prospects. They did last week in one matchup with Okuda. Dude's going pro. But they got 4 or 5 DBs in LSU's back in their secondary that can shut you down.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, yeah, they can run. But, man, it's going to be a long game if you try to spy and play man and play zone, because they'll just run crossing routes. And if not, they'll just take what they can get underneath.
Yeah, so and that's the other thing on the other side, too. I mean, Joe Burrow he's the second leading rusher for the LSU Tigers. So –
They're running off coverage and they're just taking yards underneath.
So you're we talk about that how both these guys have great arms and they can pass and they've got
big guys.
They're big dudes and they're Joe Burrow most likely going to be the number one quarterback off the board, maybe a number 1 overall draft pick in 2020. And I mean, in all honesty, Trevor Lawrence probably gonna be the number 1 guy coming out in 2021.
Yep.
And this matchup is going to be something that, hopefully we get to see in the NFL in the coming years. But the legs isn't something that, we're focusing on it.
Why shouldn't we be surprised? We've had huge running quarterbacks for every other national championship team. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen it we saw it with Kyler Murray. We saw it with Baker. We saw it with Tua. We saw it with Jalen Hurts. The guys can move. You have to be an athlete now at quarterback.
Yeah.
But we haven't had to see it yet from these teams. But I think that's something that'll come to light, with the big media guys. We're usually, not to toot our own horn, but we're about 2 weeks ahead
usually
of the major media guys out there. So just want to say, if you want it first, Recon Athlete Podcast is where you need to be at.
Yeah. You can find us reconathlete.com. At Recon Athlete on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook as well, facebook.com/Recon Athlete. All right, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, we're going to get a little bit into that some more next week when we do our episode 41 and probably next Saturday as well because that championship game isn't going to be until the 13th, I believe.
That's right.
All right, so we got some NFL playoffs, wild card round matchups we want to go over. Quickly before we get out of here on episode 40, today the first game is going to be, let me pull it up here, Buffalo Bills and the Houston Texans, 3:35
today
Central Time today. Is Kalinga going to that game?
No, he will not be there.
Man.
He's at the market right now.
Okay, shout out Kalinga. So Bills at Texans right now. I'm looking at a Houston minus 2.5. Is that what you're showing?
That's what I show.
Okay, so 2.5 point favorite for the Houston Texans, over under being 43.5. One of the things that, I was kind of researching this game a little bit. One of the things that I found odd or surprising was that Josh Allen hasn't thrown for 300 yards in his career.
He doesn't have to. He's another guy who runs.
So really, Josh Allen, and we're talking about the legs of Burrow and Trevor Lawrence, and now this game here is a perfect transition. Who's gonna have that advantage for the quarterback running, Josh Allen or Deshaun Watson, and I think that might be something that is definitely going to be a factor in this game. But I think if I'm a Texans fan. And I've watched a lot of Houston Texans this year.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling so confident about this game right now.
Yeah, neither am I.
I'm really not.
Yeah, I'm the same with you.
So, and to me, me, I'm not the X's and O's guy. That's the X and O's guys. I'll leave that up to you, Paul.
Uh-huh.
I do a lot of the narratives.
Right.
And for me, this narrative is the Houston Texans kind of sputtered down. The last sputtered into the finish line.
Right.
They were huffing and puffing, trying to get past, that week 17.
Like me running 100-yard dashes. For real.
Yeah. And so, I just think that the Houston Texans right now are almost just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And happy to have a home game and hosting a wild card game. Now, they are getting J.J. Watt back, so that's going to help their pass rush because, their pass rush is pretty much non-existent with him not in there. Granted, he's not the pass rusher that he was, in years past, but definitely he'll help out. But I just think, and the Buffalo Bills had been, one of the hottest teams, in the AFC ending the season.
Yeah, they're hot.
So the narrative to me is Buffalo's hot, Houston's not. Houston's only a 2.5 point favorite at home. And I think that 2.5 points is only there because they're at home. So, I don't want to say it's a Buffalo Bills win because, you want to pull for the Texas team.
Sure.
You know as Texans are.
Sure.
We always want to pull for our Texas brethren.
A lot of Texas pride.
But, that's the narrative that I'm saying. What do you think about this game, Paul?
I like Josh Allen and the Bills. I think that playing in the AFC East, they've been hardened. They played really well against the Patriots twice. They had lost both times, but they've been tight games. I think their defense keeps this close. If Will Fuller has a game, I think that's the only way that they pull out the victory for the Texans. He's questionable because he's always questionable. if he gives them 2 big plays, I think it's going to be a really good game. But I think the secondary for the Bills plays really well. McDermott has them extremely tested, so they're going to go in and be very confident. I just think that with the Bills playing New England twice, with the head coach for the Texans being a former coach under Bill Belichick, he knows the tendencies. McDermott's going to have them ready to go. I just like the Bills, even with the plus 2.5. I'll take the money line on the Bills tonight or today at 3:30.
Oh man, golly, I'm pulling for you, Texans. I really am. I want you guys to win. But if I had to bet, I'd put it on the Bills too. All right, Tennessee Titans at New England Patriots. That's going to be tonight, 7:15 Central Time. It's going to be on CBS. New England at home. They are a 5-point favorite right now, over under being 44. This is the first time, I think, in 10 years that the New England Patriots have had to play on Wild Card weekend. And they are 18-1 odds to win the Super Bowl.
Oh, it went up.
It went up 20?
I think it went up 20, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so 20-1.
No. From last week, it went up 140 to 180, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the last one I saw was 18-1. It might have been fluctuating because
it's probably going to be.
Because I mean, if I'm a smart money guy,
which you are,
I would say New England. If I saw New England Patriots, I'm not a gambler, but I see New England Patriots as 18-1 odds. I'm putting money on that.
Yeah.
To win the Super Bowl.
For sure.
I mean, why not? You don't bet against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Well, I am today.
Are you really?
I'm taking Tannehill and A.J. Brown.
Goodness.
A.J. Brown exposes Stephon Gilmore and makes Bill Belichick wish he never paid Gilmore so much money as the top DB. I think that's what Tannehill does today. I'm riding with Tannehill, former A&M quarterback. A.J. Brown has too much speed. They have too big of receivers for Patriots to match up. And I think Delaney Walker's also may have an impact in that game at tight end.
And they have the NFL's leading rusher, Derrick Henry.
I was going to say, well, can we get Derrick Henry a little bit of mix? I mean, there's a lot on that roster, man. And you know what? I understand that Vrabel is a former, New England guy, but listen, man, I think that there's a lot of cracks in the foundation for the Patriots right now. Tom Brady's going to either leave or stay, but one of those coaches, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady, won't be there. I think this is it.
All right. Well, I mean, like I said, I'm not a betting guy, not a gambler.
So what's the line you have?
5.
I have -4.5 Patriots.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
a little love towards Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah. Okay. So that line has moved, and it'll probably move.
Yeah.
Before tonight as well. All right. Tomorrow, first game is going to be at noon o'clock on Fox. Minnesota Vikings at New Orleans Saints. Now we saw. I mean, was that last year? This game? Or was it the year before?
It was 2
Vikings
years ago.
2 years ago. That's right. Vikings and the Saints. Yeah, with
Yeah.
Diggs and the whole thing, and it was an inauspicious ending.
Great word.
For the Saints, and I feel like they're out for revenge.
They've been on the short end of the stick for this PI call for 3 years, Chris.
They are out for revenge.
And I have a bad feeling they're going to get a left on the short end of the stick again.
What?
But I think the game will be so far out of hand, it won't even matter. I think Saints win this game big. I think they blow out the Vikings. But, yeah, I think there's going to be a PI call where it goes against them, and it's just going to have everybody scratching their heads again. But it won't matter because this game will be out of hand.
Yeah, the New Orleans Saints are 8-point favorite. 50 is the over/under. So the boys out in the desert are thinking some points are going to be scored in this game.
Points.
Probably going to be by the Saints.
Yeah.
But with Michael Thomas and a healthy Alvin Kamara, and you got Drew Brees and Taysom Hill. I mean, golly, you just got so many weapons. For the Saints, but and the Vikings are kind of injury riddled too a little bit, so I'm not going to pick Kirk Cousins over Drew Brees ever.
No way.
So, I mean, I like the Saints in this game as well. All right, and the final game for the wild card weekend, Seattle Seahawks at Philadelphia Eagles. Seattle, a road favorite right now. I'm showing -1.5. What do you got, Co? So kind of a coin flip, but being a road favorite as a West Coast team going to the East Coast, this talks a lot about the injuries that the Eagles have sustained. Brandon Brooks, the Eagles guard, is going to be out with a shoulder injury, and Lane Johnson, their tackle, is questionable for Sunday. Yeah. So, granted, the Seahawks, they haven't been the Seahawks defense that we were used to, putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But I think, if you have a whole right side of the line that could possibly be out, that spells just a disaster for the Eagles if Jadeveon Clowney can get some pressure on Carson Wentz, who's, by the way, this is his first ever playoff game. Yeah. So, we'll see how Carson Wentz, and we talked about it a few weeks ago, when I was talking about this is the biggest game Carson Wentz is ever going to play in his life, when it was Dallas Cowboys going into Philadelphia and Dallas was trying to clinch the NFC East. He stepped up, granted, the defense pretty much stepped up for the Eagles, and the Cowboys offense stepped down, stepped away. Yeah. Didn't even show up in that game. But Carson Wentz did what he had to do to win that game. So now they got to this point. Now this is the biggest game in Carson Wentz's career because this is his first playoff game, and I know he wants to win this. I know the Eagles they want to win this for them, but I just can't see them, going out and beating the Seahawks team that, you talked about how the Bills were battle tested in the AFC East. Mm-hmm. The Seahawks are battle tested in the NFC West.
Yes, sir.
Very, very much battle tested. There's no comparison between the NFC East and the NFC West.
Not even close. So
I think the Seahawks have more than a good chance to win this football game. And, if I were a gambling man, like I said, I would definitely take that 1.5 points that the Seahawks are giving.
Yeah, I think this game is a blowout. I think it's a blowout quickly. Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett get on the same page and move the ball up and down the field at will. You can't win a playoff game with your leading receiver being Zach Ertz, who's hurt, and your tight ends. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, the Eagles have not enough weapons on their side. I think their defense is grossly overmatched with Russell Wilson and company, so I don't even like this thing to be 1.5 point favorites. I'm not really sure what they're looking at. I understand Dwayne Brown, left tackle for Seattle's out, but I really don't think that Russell Wilson has a problem moving outside of the pocket or moving the ball down the field with his feet if he has to. He's great at it, and he also avoids contact at all costs.
Yeah. So Seahawks, I think we both are on Seahawks. Mm-hmm. We're both on the Saints.
They're thinking points are going to be scored in this game, too. The over-under is 45.
45, wow. Yeah. We're both thinking Saints. You're thinking Titans. I'm going to go Patriots.
Yeah, so I like Titans.
So you're Titans on Patriots, and then we're both Bills.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's going to be exciting. I think all four of these games are going to be good.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're going to be really good wild card games. I think this is going to be really entertaining, and I like the fact that this game, that today's games don't start until the afternoon. So there's something,
look forward to
for
sure
this afternoon. All right, ReconAthlete.com podcast episode number 40. Go ahead and wrap things up. Don't forget about January 19th. We're going to be at Christ Market. Jesse Stratton Band's going to be there. We're going to play a little bit more Jesse Stratton Band at the end of the podcast here. December Moon is the name of this track. And we're going to look forward to seeing you guys out there. Thanks to everybody that showed up on our Facebook Live. Philip Anthony Morales. What's up, Phil? And Amado Galvez. Eric Partita said, what's up? Corey Huck. What's up, Huckster? He said what's up on our watch party there. So give us a shout on our watch parties. When we're out here, I'll give you a shout out on the live podcast. So once again, January 19th, Kreitz Market, Recon Athlete, Jesse Stratton Band. It's going to be a party, man.
For sure.
We're looking forward to it. So we'll see y'all out there. Let's wrap this thing up. Paul, do your thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, if y'all are enjoying this podcast, please like, subscribe, share it with all of your friends and family. Hit the bell on YouTube with the notifications. We'll let you know when we upload. We gone.